discuss the lack of awareness of snake bites and generally, and Chima highly mentioned some of the other key points with regards to the social science aspect, as well as the anthropological aspect in reducing snake bite awareness and what that means for communities. We also need to discuss the risks faced by snake rescuers. They work really hard to save lives in rural communities, and our previous awareness work has highlighted some anecdotal discussions that highlight some of the challenges faced by these workers. There's an inherent risk in rescuing venomous snakes, as you can all imagine. Snake rescuers are really important local champions, and they play a vital role to save lives. They're often stigmatized as being considered coming from backwards classes, and oftentimes they're untrained in their field. It's a high-risk job, and many often die due to the snake bites they face or encounter during their rescue procedures. Risks and challenges that the rescuers face have never really been studied. So we developed an online survey to underpin some of the issues faced by them. I'm going to share a very short snapshot of the data. So we principally worked in Tamil Nadu, which is a southern state in India, and we had 154 responses from snake rescuers. And this heat map shows the distribution of the responses that we received. So as you can imagine, the majority of our snake rescuers were male, and they were between the ages of 26 and 30. In terms of their occupation, their primary occupation, the majority were within fire and rescue, business, as well as engineers and technicians. We also asked why they got involved in snake rescue and what motivated them. And the top three categories were they were interested in snakes and conservation and helping the community. The fourth one was due to the impact of snakebite on society in general. And we can see some of the other reasons as well there in that pie chart. In terms of the challenges faced by our rescuers, I think it's really important to note that 60% of the rescuers we surveyed had received both education on venomous as well as non-venomous snakes. However, 34% did not receive any education at all. It's also important to note that 71% of these had no formal authorization by the government to perform their snake rescue activities. 29% did have formal authorization. It's also important to understand some of the challenges they face whilst attending to calls and why they would not be able to attend a call. The top three reasons, again, are other work commitments, the location being too far, as well as time constraints to be able to carry out the rescue. 70% of our participants had to spend money from their own pocket to be able to continue to provide their services. 34% of those had spent over 5,000 rupees every year to be able to continue to do the work that they do. In terms of tools, 79% stated they required support for acquiring equipment. And out of the tools that they felt that they needed the most now to be able to continue their work were snake hooks, boots, and gloves. I think it's really important to highlight that a lot of our snake rescuers use homemade tools. They don't use official tools or cotton or jute bags or that are double sealed to kind of hold the snake. In terms of snake hook, they sometimes fashion it themselves. So having, I suppose, an official tool that is designed for that purpose would be useful to them, or they felt would be useful to them to be able to conduct their work. We also asked them what they felt that could be done to help them perform their role better. And again, as discussed previously, better equipment, better training, and improving knowledge of venomous and non-venomous snakes and snake rescue education would be useful to them to improve their role. We also asked them their greatest areas of concern and greatest areas of improvement needed. Again, echoing much of their earlier sentiments, the greatest areas of concerns for snake rescuers when they're operating in the field is lack of resources, crowd management, as well as a lack of license and ID. In terms of areas of improvement, they require training, safety and equipment, as well as general snake bite awareness, along with other things such as official ID, being able to communicate with the public, and health insurance. I think it's really important to conclude by stating that the animal-man conflict is a common phenomenon. All snake species in India are legally protected under the Wildlife Protection Act, but legal protection can't stop killing. And snake rescuers play a very vital role in society but also to snake conservation. There is, as stated previously, a need for greater education and awareness in snakebite endemic areas. But it's also important to highlight the significance of snakes in our ecosystem and their role in environmental conservation. Accurate recording of activities can provide incredibly reliable and valuable data on reptile diversity, as well as distribution of species. For example, if we were to formalize the process, or if the government of Tamil Nadu was to formalize the process of having snake catchers or snake rescuers have ID, that way simultaneously we can generate data on the snakes captured, the locations, and where they were released. And that can basically help create a better picture of quantifiable data on the snake diversity and communities in need. Going back to the One Health approach, empowering communities to work together to make changes by bringing communities together is very important. Snake rescuers can go into communities, highlight awareness, as well as reducing snake bites, as well as preserving snakes. I'd like to thank the University of Reading, my supervisors and Team Venom, as well as the snake rescuers that took part in the survey. So thank you very much.
Are there any questions? I have one question.
Yeah.
When you say snake rescuer, what do you mean? Is someone phone them and tell how do they get contacted? And
yeah, so the predominant form of contact we found amongst our snake rescuers was via telephone, like tools and social media such as WhatsApp. They knew who their local snake rescuer was, and that's how they were contacted. It seems that they're quite known in their communities or in the communities that they operate.
And what happens to the snake after they rescue it?
In the majority of the participants we interviewed, the majority of those snakes rescued are actually released into the wild or back into areas that they're not going to infringe on human habitats.
Hi, thank you. That's a very interesting survey because it's a big issue, snake bite among snake rescuers in India. And one question is, do you have any idea of the average annual number of snakes that is rescued by one rescuer? Did you ask the question?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, so this is just a snapshot. So it varies greatly. And then again, it varies greatly across the season. So we asked what they considered a high peak season was. We asked what they considered a low peak season was. And then we did a monthly cross check as well. So yeah, happy to share that afterwards.
Thanks. A very interesting presentation. I know you were very focused in your study in India, but do you have also or potentially further studies or a broader understanding of the presence of snake rescuers in other countries, in other snake bite endemic countries in the world? Because I know they're more present in some countries than others. So is this something you've looked at or planning to look at, a more comparative approach?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think it varies across states, maybe in India as well, a little bit in terms of community access to snake rescuers. But yeah, we'd love to get this project off the ground in other countries as well for comparative reasons. I think each country and each state in snakebite endemic areas has their own very particular culture in terms of getting rescuers. I know in certain areas of sub-Saharan Africa, they call the traditional healer to help rescue the snake, because then the healer uses the snake or just kills it afterwards. So I know there is a lot of cultural diversity amongst rescuers themselves.
Are there any questions online? Well, thank you very much, and thanks for helping get us back on time as well.
That's all right.